3 world experts, a neuroscientist, a billionaire investor, and a trauma physician on what your brain is actually capable of, and why most people never find out.
You used to think that by the time you stopped physically growing, like age 18, that your brain became completely fixed, your personality, your IQ, etc. We now know that the brain actively grows and changes till we're about 25. So if you think of a newborn baby, it can't do anything. And within 18 months...
It's ridiculous, really. If you look at it and you're like, this is ridiculous, you know? Like you would never draft one on your fantasy team or whatever, you know? It's bad. But anyway, go on. I mean, I like what God does, but some of that is... The starting point is very far, you know? You're far off the line, it feels like.
But isn't it incredible what happens within 18 months?
Yeah.
So,
really is.
Then they're like walking, they can control their own bladder and bowels, they can speak up to 5 languages if they've been exposed to, different languages in the first few years of their life. So that's the biggest example of neuroplasticity. That change is incredible. You don't know that even though your brain is such a small percentage of your body weight, it uses up 20 to 30% of everything that you eat.
Really?
Yeah.
Your brain does?
Yeah.
Wow.
So when you're asleep, your brain's using up 20% of what you ate that day.
What a thief, huh?
It's just energy hungry. That's what we would call it. And so when you're really focused on something like this, you're probably using up about 25%. But if you're under a lot of stress, your brain will take up 30% of what you're eating.
Wow.
All of us will encounter pain. And you said pain plus reflection equals progress. How have you learned to deal with pain? You've had a lot of pain in all facets of life because you've lived the life arc and you continue to. What's the best principle for dealing with pain?
First of all, to calm yourself down and to get centered. Meditation has had a big beneficial effect on my life. We can get into meditation in a minute, how it has. But the ability to, in a sense, calm yourself down, and when the time is right, to reflect on what's happened, both to understand how reality works. You want to be a hyper-realist. I understand how reality works, therefore I need to do this under this set of circumstances, which means developing principles. And so what I did when I would do that at any time, whenever I would think, what should I do, whether painful or not, I would pause, reflect on, what should I do if that happened again? And that's how I would write down my principles. And what I did was I wrote down a lot of principles.
Trauma, in my definition, is very simple. If you look at the word origin, it's a Greek word for wound or wounding. So trauma is a wound that hasn't healed. Okay. Which also means that trauma is not what happens to you. Trauma is what happens inside you as a result of what happens to you. So, I sustain a blow on the head, that's not the trauma. The trauma is the concussion that I develop. That's the unhealed wound. So there are traumatic events that can wound people, but the trauma is the wound itself that hasn't healed. 2 people break their legs. In one case, the leg doesn't heal. That's the trauma. If it heals, it's not a trauma. It's just a painful experience. Right. So not everything that's painful is traumatic. Everything that's traumatic is painful. Not every stress, not every pain is traumatic. If it doesn't heal, it is. And I'm talking non-psychological.
Your brain doesn't actually know the difference between something happening in real life and a strong visualization. And then, and you won't be afraid of it if you've already visualized it. You won't kind of meet that dream girl and say, oh, maybe I'm not ready. Right. You'll have told your brain that you're ready to take a healthy risk.
Wow, so your brain doesn't really know the difference between, say that again?
Between something that happened in real life or something that you strongly visualize.
Wow, it's the same reason why when we watch a movie or something, we're able to get lost in it.
Yeah.
We're able to believe in it because Wow, so you could create enough of a visualization for yourself if you really were to powerfully start to focus on it and do that and build that ability to visualize something that your brain at one point would have to think it's so true that the world would meet you and put it into your life.
I love the way you put that.
Wow.